Welcome to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that puts you right in the heart of women's hockey. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and each week I'm on a mission to showcase the incredible women who are lighting up the ice across the globe. Get ready as I chat with rising stars, seasoned pros, and all the game changers making waves in the world of women's hockey that you won't find anywhere else. So, let's dive into the exciting world of women's hockey and make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I am excited to be joined by Mari Pietersen, a goaltender with Boston University. Mari, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking. Very excited to have a conversation with you, to be able to finally sit down and get to know you, get to learn a little bit more about you. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. I love the enthusiasm. We're going to do this. This is going to be great. A natural launching point, especially for someone who hasn't been on the show before, is to talk about your origin story. What was it about hockey that drew you to the sport, and more specifically as a goaltender?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, neither of my parents played hockey. I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings in it. But I grew up in a very big Leaf family, so we're big Toronto Maple Leaf fans. So I spent a lot of time as a kid, since the age of 2 years old, 3 years old, watching games with my dad on the couch, watch every game. Honestly, from there, I just kind of pointed to the TV and was like, I want to do that. I've played other sports. My parents had me doing soccer and kind of other things, and I was really athletic, but no hockey. And I was learning how to skate, but I kind of showed my parents, I want to try that. And they were like, okay, sure. They didn't know anything about it. They were happy to sign me up. And, I played house league with boys, and I just played player with nothing special. But, how they go, everyone does a turning goalie, you rotate through. So I had my turn, and I didn't hate it. I wasn't this is the best thing ever. I didn't hate it. But I found that I wasn't too bad at it. And none of the boys liked doing it. They all wanted to play out. None of them wanted to be a net. So when playoffs came around, I really wanted to win, and I had that big drive to win. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not too bad at it, and none of the guys want to do it, so I'll take one for the team. I'll go in. So I went in, and I liked it. I was like, okay, this is not too bad. So that's kind of half the story, and then the other half is I honestly just found that when goalies slide on their pads, I thought it was so cool. One of my friends on my team, one of the other girls, there's three of us on that boys team, and one of the other girls, I was friends with her, and her older sister was a goalie. So I watched her at practice and thought sliding was the coolest thing ever. I don't know why, but just the idea of being able to slide on the ice. So I kind of just said I wanted to do that. And my parents were like, are you sure? They asked me a million times. I was like, yeah, I want to be a goalie. Further.
It's interesting because a lot of the time there's whether it's a parent or whether it's a sibling that is often the motivation. Either your parents, hockey runs in your blood, right? Where a parent played hockey for years, or sibling played, and you're like, I just want to play. It looks so cool when they're playing.
Yeah.
But for you, that was not the case. So again, what was it like? Yeah. It wasn't the case. So you saw it. What were some of your initial impressions of the sport of hockey, and what was it like to lace up your skates for the first time?
I think it was just the team environment. I remember watching games, and I think it was when something's on a lot in the house, whether that's soccer, football, whatever, hockey being on all the time, I was just engaged in it. And I don't know where the passion kind of came from. Even now, I'm a big Leaf fan now, so I think that kind of stayed within me. So I think just watching it and thinking the skating was really cool, and I was doing learn to skate at the time, and I think just the fact of like hitting something on the ice and like being able to like play a sport on the ice besides just the regular skating was really cool to me. So that really had my eye. And then lacing up the skates, I just remember like I remember falling a lot. Like as soon as because I had like the learn to skate, like figure skates basically. And then one of my learn to skate instructors was a hockey player. It was a girl, and she had hockey skates. So I told my parents kind of when this whole hockey fascination started, like I want skates like Nikki. And my parents got me the skates. I remember falling a lot because I had just a girlfriend. But I went, I remember this very vividly. I had like a birthday party, and I had these hockey skates. I went out in them. It was like a skating party. I tried, I fell a lot. I went back inside. I told them, I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, give me my other skates. And they're like, no, Mari, like, keep trying. You know, you'll get it. And I kept going for the rest of that hour, and I figured it out. And then we just kind of went from there.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it just feels like a natural spot for me to jump too far ahead just for a
Okay,
moment.
go for it.
What does it feel like when you look back on all those times that you'd lace up the skates and you'd hit the ice and then you'd hit the ice and you'd fall and all these sorts of things? To think about where you were then, did you ever in that moment, not necessarily specifically just that one moment, but especially early on, did you see yourself as someone who would be able to, look at this as a potential career moving forward and have invested, your junior career, and now you're going, you're at Boston U. Did you ever think this was something that would happen?
Honestly, not really. Like, I think as a kid, like, when I first started playing, it was just about like having fun, and I really enjoyed it. So, in having fun, and I made a lot of really good friends. So, it was that social aspect as well that really kept me drawn into it. I don't think it was really until like U13, I would say, that I realized like, hey, like I'm actually pretty good at this, and this is something that I could keep, thriving and getting better at, and aspiring to, make something out of it. So I think it was probably what's that, like around like 11, 12 years old that I was like, this could be something. So for the first little bit, it was just more about, having fun and, an after school activity.
I love it. I love it. And you had mentioned a little bit about family. Now, again, it's a bit of a more unique scenario for you because no one in your family knew what went into necessarily hockey, right? Like
Yeah.
you've mentioned that watching hockey, that's definitely you knew what hockey was, but you didn't realize necessarily, the investment and especially the
Hmm.
financial investment, especially as a goaltender. If we're talking
Yeah.
about like, let's dive into the deep end about in terms of
Yeah,
expense. That's the
exactly.
deep end right there. Um, I love this. I love learning more about, the impact that family has had on a player's career, especially early on, especially those times when maybe you're like, I hate this, or I'm not really into it, or maybe there have been some ups and downs throughout your career. Just what has it meant for you to have family there, especially again, as a family that's like, I guess we now have, a hockey player in our family. What
Yeah.
has that meant for you?
I mean, honestly, family's everything to me. I can't be more grateful for what my family's given me, the opportunities, the time, financially. Uh, Throughout my career, I can't name many games my parents missed. Like even my last year at BU, I think my parents missed maybe 5 games. And for being 9 hours away, that's pretty incredible. So I'm very close to my parents, even my extended family, my grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins. Like it really takes a village, and I can't be more grateful for the village that I have. Um, they have been nothing but supportful and encouraging for me, and even when I need a little bit of a kick in the butt, they've been there for that, or a shoulder to cry on, or sometimes even those games where you just need to talk about something else after. So they've always been there for me for whatever I need, and I truly cannot be more grateful.
Okay, I we'll move away from the family thing in just a moment. But again, this is like for me, I love because hockey is so much more than just, and you've kind of mentioned it in terms of like hockey. One of the draws to hockey is the team aspect. It's not about you as an individual, it's about the team.
Hmm.
And you actually mentioned that as well earlier on.
Yeah.
But also it isn't like off the ice, your family is your team as well, right? So
Yeah.
I always love talking about this. So indulge me for just one more moment here. But
Mhm.
when you speaking of your family not, missing many games at all during your career, especially now at Boston, what does it mean to you to actually like to look up in the stands and that your family is there? Whether it's your parents, whether it's cousins, whomever it may be, but just knowing that there's constantly someone there rooting for you, wins or losses, good games or bad games, they're there and they're supporting you. What does that mean for you, and how do you I guess how does that motivate you to continue moving forward in your hockey career?
I mean, it's very special to always look up and have someone there. Um, I think it's always just that sense of knowing someone has your back and that like you're they're always right behind me, one step away, ready to catch me if I fall or give me a lift up if I need it. Um, it's just it's super super special, and I honestly, when you said like just to look up and have someone there, I kind of think of like even in my biggest moments with Team Canada, um, those moments like looking up and seeing my parents be there for me, and that's such a like special moment. It was almost like we were celebrating that moment together, like because they've put in obviously incredible of time, like driving me to practice. I played in Topico, which was 50 minutes from where I lived. So even only my last year I could drive myself. So they drove me practice, games, extra goalie training, workouts, how much time and hours and commitment they have put in. So it's really special not just to share those moments with them. And even now being at BU, it takes a team, a village. So it's not just me who earned this. It's everyone.
That was a good answer. That was a very good answer. Very very good answer. Um, when you reflect, and this goes for your entire career, so early days, your junior career, and we'll get with we'll speak about the Dolphins in just a moment, but as well as with Team Canada or with Boston University, what were some of the you know speaking honestly and openly, what were some of those challenges that you faced throughout your young career? What are some of those things that you sit back and maybe there were moments where it was like, you know what, maybe I just don't want to do this anymore, or maybe it
Yeah.
was I just feel really discouraged after that game, and I wish I was better. What were some of those challenges that you've had to face?
I think just firstly this past year, like figuring out how to balance life as a student athlete, being away from home for the first time, having to, figure out eating on your own, cooking, like, I don't cook, but dining hall, but cleaning and laundry and just living on your own. It's an adjustment. And then being a student athlete is it's a lot different than, just being in high school and playing junior. So that was a big adjustment in itself, and quite a challenge figuring out how to balance it all and, still have time for everything and making sure that I didn't overwhelm myself. um, that was probably a really big challenge this past year. And looking back at junior and growing up, I think um, I did face some injuries and always having to overcome those, especially coming back from an injury and, you know, not playing in a while and still having that confidence was always a hard task. And being able to come back just as strong as you left, and kind of giving yourself that patience and grace to remember that something I struggle with is always expecting myself to be where I left off or expecting myself to, stay right there. But having to give myself some patience and understanding that, when I was injured, that, it did take a little bit to get it back, and that I have to be patient and forgive myself and not be so hard on myself all the time. That is something I would say is definitely one of my biggest challenges, even to this day, is being really hard on myself and expecting perfectionism, and that's not realistic at all.
I was actually going to, as you were answering that, I was going to ask you for advice that you might have, especially coming back from an injury, for anyone who's listening or watching what advice you might have, but I think you just answered that question for me without even you got ahead of
Yeah.
my question. But I think that's a really profound answer, right? Like it's about understanding, you have this expectation for yourself, especially as an athlete. You always demand more out of yourself, and to try to bounce back after an injury, that can't have been um, an easy. It doesn't sound like it was an easy experience at all, right? It sounds like it was um, a very challenging experience. Do you think that through those injuries, did those injuries in a kind of a strange way help like maybe redefine who you are and redefine your character?
I think so. I think taking that second to, loosen your expectations on yourself, and not saying that means like you don't have any expectations on yourself, but just being more flexible with what that means. I also think that anytime you step away from a sport you love or doing something you love, it gives you a new appreciation for it. Like not being able to do something that you want to do, seeing your teammates do it. Um, when you go back to it, you kind of realize that, at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I'm doing this because I have fun. And even when, now as I get older, I'm playing in a college. It's a much more intense environment than, playing minor hockey. You realize that, you're still doing it because you have fun, and you're still doing it because you enjoy the sport. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Right. Well, I love that answer too. You're
Hmm.
crushing it. As as you continue looking at your career and maybe looking in the rear view mirror, who were some of those influences or those role models that you had um, growing up? And it can be whether that's family, maybe that's, I've also heard a lot that it's until more recently, obviously, with the PWHL, which we'll get to in a moment. A lot of the time, it wasn't necessarily women's hockey players. A lot of the time, it was men's hockey players, siblings, those sorts of things as well. Who are some of those role models, some of those influences that you had maybe early on, but also now that you're in you're in your collegiate career, which is must be crazy to think about that you're now at like a really great program at Boston U.
Yeah. Um, I would definitely say off the ice, and a lot of things I carry on the ice, just um, have been my parents teaching me like simple values that I kind of live every day by. Like one of the biggest things my dad always told me for every practice is just go work hard and be yourself. And he never played hockey, but that's applicable in any aspect of the world. And I apply that even to when I'm doing my schoolwork. Like I I think that was something that really stuck with me. Um, my mom too, just teaching me how to like really be a good person, even when no one's watching. To do the right thing, even when it's hard. Um, on the ice, I wouldn't say that I have one goalie that I like really look up to. I think I try and take little things from everyone. A lot of the times growing up, I had a lot of different coaches, so just taking small lessons from each of them. How to be a professional, um, about culture, just small things from everyone had the opportunity to learn from. I would say one of my big role models, someone I look up to, is my goalie coach, Brad Fogel. Um, I've been working with him for quite a long time now. I'd say like 6-7 years, and he's just really helped me like grow as a goalie and someone I really look up to. And yeah.
Well, the good news is, if you'd like, I could clip all of the compliments you've given to your family, and I could just make one compilation and just send it right to you so that you can send it to them and be like, "Hey, listen, I said all these nice things about you on this podcast." So,
Sure, yeah.
yeah,
Christmas gift.
yeah. No, it's always great. Again, like I said earlier, I love the family aspect. I think that it's for fans, we only really see what happens on the ice. We don't see the path to get there, and sometimes those paths, involve, like you said, it takes a village, right? So
Mhm.
I can't agree with that more. Um, as you've continued your career,
What do you think, the another sort of off ice thing for athletes is the community involvement, being
Yeah.
involved in the community, connecting with the community. What does it mean to you to be able to connect with the community and in a sense give back to the fans who were, supporting you throughout your career?
Yeah, I think that's really important. The biggest way I would say that I've been trying to give back is just getting back into coaching. I've been really like grateful to go work with the goalie school that I learned from to go back and like coach the little kids there. So that has been a really important aspect, and I think that just being able to be a part of someone else's journey, even if it's in a little tiny way, is really rewarding and special. I also had the opportunity to like work at some other camps that I attended as a kid too, goalie camps, and I also work at like Toronto Maple Leaf like hockey school camp in the summer. So being able to work at those and impact little kids, especially when they come up to you afterwards and they tell you at the end of the camp, like on Friday, like I really had fun being around you. You taught me a lot, or I'm gonna miss you so much. Just knowing that you had a positive impact on someone else's life, even if it's 0.01%, it's more than if you've never met them, and I find that really really special.
Well, you set up a perfect segue, and every time I say that, I realize that saying that it was a perfect segue negates the perfect segue. But I wanted to recognize the perfect segue that you provided me there, which was, um, could you maybe talk a little bit more about what some of your favorite experiences have been? You mentioned a few of them, and obviously being able to connect with the fans and hear how much it meant to them for you to spend time, even if you're like, it was an hour or it was 2 hours out of
Yeah.
my day, right? Um, what were some of your what have been some of your favorite experiences, being able to give back to the community and to be able to connect with the community the way that you have?
I would say a lot of working those camps and working like clinics, just being able to give back. I'm trying to think of specific examples. I really enjoy like one camp I work at was a camp I attended as a kid, Sammy Joe Small Goalie School in the summer, and I think it's really really special in that situation, seeing that I was once in those kids' shoes, and um, they actually like when I came back as a counselor, like we go through. She does like video clips throughout the day, and able to show like some of my video clips from the World Championships. And the kids come up to me afterwards, like, "Whoa, is that you? That was so cool!" And just small situations like that are really, really cool. It's something I never thought that I'd be able to do. So I think those really stick with me, especially just just hearing the positive influence you have. Parents coming up to you afterwards, like I've gotten some emails saying that like their daughters really enjoyed working with me, or even some camps they work with boys and say like I'm saying like I remember you from last year. Like I'm so glad you're back. Just hearing those things have been really great experiences for sure.
It must also be so surreal, especially like just more broadly, like hearing that great feedback is certainly profound, but also like you've said, like some of these camps you were at before and now
Mhm.
you're coaching at these camps. Like it must be like a real like pinch me moment in those at that
Yeah.
time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember I the camp was in August, so it wasn't that long ago, but I like specifically remember it's been my third year going back as a counselor. And I remember every single time I'm like, it's kind of crazy. Like I just remember being here, and I never would have thought that I would be where I'm at now with the experiences that I've gone to have. So it's a pretty good pinch me moment, especially hearing some of the like, little kids talk, and they ask like, "Wow, you play at BU? Like that's crazy." And I don't say it humbles you, but it kind of like brings you back down to earth when you
Mm.
hear someone say that, because I think we can get really caught up in like all the other stuff that goes on with being a collegiate athlete, and get so like stuck in how busy it is. So it's pretty cool to be able to take a moment and be like, wow, like I actually am playing somewhere at a level that a lot of kids aspire to be at, and playing somewhere that if I were to tell my 11-year-old self, or I don't know how old I was when I took that camp, like 13, like, hey, look at you now, she'll be pretty proud of you. So it's cool to take that moment.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It absolutely is. And when we talk about your career, we've talked about how things started, the lacing of the skates, so to speak. And now, as we continue looking at your career, you've mentioned it earlier, but you've had the opportunity to represent Canada,
Yeah.
where you won gold. So congratulations, which is that was the
Thank you.
2022. That's that's the 2022 World Championships, which is absolutely incredible. So again, congratulations. Not something that everyone gets a
Thank
chance
you.
to say. And especially as someone who's like, yeah, no, I just laced up my skates and look at me now, right? So like it's just so cool to be able to literally hang that around your neck, right? And not to mention, and I know this is a team sport, but I do want to give you a shout out. You were also named player of the game in the gold medal game. So again, humble brag, totally fine. I love that. But I guess let's start with that experience. We'll start on the ice and then maybe we'll move off the ice. But on the ice, what was it like well, I guess this is technically off the ice that led to on the ice, but what was it like for you to get that call, to get that, that invitation to represent your country, especially as someone who, again, like we've said, may not have early in her career thought that she'd be representing her country. What was that experience like for you?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to start. Firstly, the whole process is quite a long one. The first email I got, first invite, was for the summer summer tryout, summer showcase that they had the summer before my World Championships. And I remember getting that email and opening it, and I was like, holy! Like I actually got this email. I was like sitting in my kitchen, and I told my parents, I was like, am I reading this right? Like, it was on my radar, but to actually see that for the first time, like Team Canada, that's pretty crazy. So I remember the initial shock of like, wow, like that's pretty cool. And then you get sent to camp, and you try out, and that was getting a chance. First camp was in Calgary, so getting to like fly out there, and even just for a camp was super cool. Like I've never been in that experience where someone was like flying me out to go to a hockey camp, and getting to put on the practice jersey even was so cool, and be a part of, like, meet all the staff and see how much goes into like this great team, all the little tiny parts you don't realize until you get there how much really goes into it. So even the first camp, I was just like, wow, this is sick. Like so cool, and I'm just so grateful to be there and get the experience of like getting to go out on that ice for the first time in Calgary. And I remember like I was so nervous, but at the same time I was like, this is like so fun. Like I'm getting to play the game I love at such a cool stage. Like that was just in Calgary. We were doing inter-squad games against each other, so that was super fun. And then skip forward, my World Championship year was an interesting year because we were COVID. So I'm not sure if you know the whole story. I know you had Alyssa on the podcast, but that we had the fast forward to when we were picking the team, and they picked the team. We first, actually, let me hold back a second. They told us they were going to have a camp because the World Championship was in January, and they were going to have a camp at the end of December, and they're going to pick a team and then send the team out to Sweden. We're like, okay. So I got the email, you're invited to camp. I was like, okay, great, like let's do this. And then kind of a few days later, they tell us, actually, because of COVID, we can't have a camp. Camp's scrapped, we're just going to pick a team. So then you're kind of like, I remember, so around Christmas time, I was like, okay, like, very nerve-wracking, but nothing I can do at this point. I can't perform any better with no camp. I'm going to get the call, or I'm going to get a call saying no, so it's out of my control. I was very fortunate to get a call that said, yes, you are on the team. And then super excited. We're like, okay, we're going to Sweden. And then a few days later, they tell us that our tournament got canceled because of COVID. So that was, I think, a very important part of like our whole tournament, our whole team story to mention, that we, supposed to have a tournament, and our tournament got canceled. And then from there, we didn't know what was going to happen. It was COVID. Everyone's thing was getting canceled, so we didn't even know if we were going to have a tournament. It was like, okay, you know, now you kind of have to put it back in like the rearview mirror and like start focusing back on junior, my Topo season. And then a few months later, they announced that they were going to have a tournament in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, and that they were going to bring some kids back out to Calgary to try out. And I did that, and I was very fortunate and grateful to have made the team and be able to go to Wisconsin to compete for my country.
And we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their diets and health so they can perform their best both on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is available now. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's melissabuffunos.com/course, and make sure to use code Rinkside to save $50 off the regular price. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show.
Considering the, let's say the journey you had to go through to finally don that jersey, we're going to get in just a moment to what it felt like to actually put that jersey on for the first time. But how do you, going through the ups and downs, you made the team, no, it's canceled, yes, you're there, no, it's not, all those sorts of things. What do you think that did for you sort of mentally in terms of how you maybe like approach the game, how you know, overcome obstacles, all those sorts of things? Because this was a huge opportunity for you. So you were riding real high and then you were brought back down, right? So what did that do for you mentally going through that experience?
I think it really taught me a lot about adversity and how to face it. And, you know, you can never be too high, never be too low. I think as a group, as a team, it really taught us a lot about adversity. And I mean, going into our tournament, I think that we really benefited from that whole experience as a group. And then personally, I think it really just taught me, you know, I've said this already, but to really just appreciate the moments that you have. And then when I finally got a chance to, you know, go to the tournament and be there, it was like, you know, no matter what's going to happen and what's going on, I almost wasn't here. This almost never happened. So just to really, you know, get it, you know, with all the ups and downs, it really, you know, you get to appreciate what you do get and be really grateful for the experiences that we were given because we almost didn't.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, despite all of the ups and downs, I'd call this, as I mentioned, gold medal. That's not bad. So being able to overcome that adversity, right? This is exactly what it was. It's a testament to how you were able to, you know, maybe block out some of that noise and control the controllables, focus on those things, not focus on the noise. Is that kind of maybe how, like, talk a little bit about as a team what it felt like to go through those ups and downs and then to end up coming out on top, right? Like, you couldn't have done better, right? You won. So what was that like after everything you had to go through?
I think you nailed it pretty much. Like, control the controllables. And as a team, like, if you look at our tournament, we faced adversity throughout the tournament. You know, we lost 2 round robin games. So it wasn't exactly once we had the tournament and breezed through, we faced a lot of adversity even throughout. And I think that it made us so good as a team and, you know, really, you know, brought us together. Like, that team was so special. And I am still friends with a lot of girls on that team and girls from all over the place, not just, you know, the girls that I grew up with, but we were so close because we had to be close. We had to, you know, you're facing adversity. We're not just facing adversity individually. Like, this stuff happened to all of us. We all were going through. We were all happy all of a sudden. We were all sad the next day when we found out the tournament was canceled. So it brings you closer to your teammates when you're going through the same things, I mean, as much as you want to talk about it to, your parents or your siblings, they don't exactly understand it when they're not the ones living it. So being able to, tell your teammate, like, I'm really sad this happened, or, I'm this, I'm that, they're the ones going through it as well. So, going through it together really, grew really close to the team. I think that was really evident with, how we played in the end in that final game.
Yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah. We had touched on it earlier, but I want to know when, it's one thing to pull on that jersey for practice, but it's another thing to pull on that jersey for a game. What did that feel like for you to pull on that jersey, to know that you're representing your country? What did that mean to you?
It was spectacular. It was amazing. I remember the first time I put on the jersey, they did a little jersey ceremony for us. It was really special. Had it all out in our locker room. And we all went inside. We all got a chance to put on our jerseys individually, one by one, and have our moment. And I remember putting it on, and I was like, holy moly, like, this is real. I'm actually holding like a Team Canada jersey with my last name on it. Something I dreamed of growing up. Like, this is insane. So putting on that jersey was just like, I was kind of speechless. Even now, like, even thinking about it, I'm like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of those moments where you genuinely just amazing is the only thing that comes to mind. And not just that, like, I think the other moment where I really felt that is after the game, we line up on the blue line and get to sing our national anthem. That was probably the only other moment where I would say I felt that same, like, speechless and just like goosebumps of like just absolute pride to represent your country and such a cool, like, situation, like watching U18s and watching, the World Juniors growing up in the Olympics, and saying like, I got to play in a hockey tournament representing my country, and to hear that national anthem and hear us all like sing it and belt it out was just absolutely amazing.
Well, especially to do so, again, not to harp on the point again, but to do so after the adversity that you faced in just getting to that point, right? To be able to, pull on that jersey, to be able to, stand on the blue line and be able to sing the national anthem. Quite frankly, I don't know that I would have the words to be able to describe how that moment must feel. And I think that the fact that it's still so, that feeling or those feelings are still so raw for you is an example of just how much of an impact it had on you, and how much of an impact that whole experience had on you. And when we talk about experiences, it isn't just, as fans, we get to see like, they won a game, they lost a game, they won gold, and this is all awesome. But we also don't get to see what happens off the ice. So I also wanted to ask, what were some of those fun experiences that you had off the ice, away from the rink, with your teammates, again, with the I guess caveat, knowing that, like, a lot of you didn't think you were going to be there. So what were some of those fun experiences that you had away from the rink?
Yeah, well, I was really grateful. It's actually pretty cool that 5 other of my Etobicoke junior Dolphin teammates rose on the team with me. So there were 6 of us. So that itself was super cool. Basically, my, like, best friends and girls that I've known for years, we were all, like, living out part of our childhood dream together. So that itself was absolutely, like, amazing. And I remember just thinking, like, just small stuff like going to Starbucks before the games, and there were moments where, we would all, just like regular kids, we'd all just go to Starbucks when we wanted Starbucks, like Uber eating food after games because we were tired of eating, like, pasta, or like we want something else, like Chipotle or something. I remember before the final game, one of my best friends, who's also my Etobicoke Dolphins team, Abby, we had like back-to-back rooms, so we had like a joined door. So before the game, we were just sitting in her room, like watching like soccer, like eating like smoothie bowls. Like, I was just watching the game. It was like a massive thunderstorm. We were like 2 hours before we had to leave, and we were just completely just enjoying ourselves. Like, you think before like a big game like that, a gold medal game, you'd be superstitious and like, so, in a routine, I think we were literally watching soccer. It was like a crazy storm outside, we were just talking. We're like, wow, this is pretty cool. We're about to play a gold medal game against Team USA. Like, that's pretty cool. Just kind of like those small
Just as
moments
you're eating your
yeah, exactly. We were just sitting there like watching soccer, like we had to leave soon, but just enjoying the moment, enjoying spending time with each other. At the same time, like those are the moments that I remember too, like just getting to spend like time with my friends and girls that I played junior with. That we were a bunch of them, like we all went separate ways for college, so like those are moments that I really cherish too, like those kind of final moments before I wouldn't see someone for a really long time, or I wouldn't get to have as many of those moments when we're playing at different schools.
Well, good news is you set me up with another good assist here. So, because as we look to continue speaking of your career, the Etobicoke Dolphins, which is an incredible program, one that you were able to obviously be a part of, where you had spent 3 seasons. What was it like to be a part of that program? Obviously, we've heard the relationships that you were able to build, those are lifelong relationships, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit more about what it was like to be a part of that program, both on and off the ice, for you personally.
Yeah. I mean, I was very grateful for the time I spent at Etobicoke. Those 3 years were great. I enjoyed, honestly, like every second. I look back and I miss parts of it, of course. I think that's really special to say that you miss parts of your junior career. Off the ice, like you said, I made some amazing friendships, lifelong friendships, and all of it. Like those were great. Made some great memories off the ice in those 3 years. On the ice, Etobicoke is a really great program, one that I had a chance to develop both on and off the ice, as a goalie, as a person, having a coach that pushed me to be better, but also supported me every step of the way and really taught me a lot about, how to be a pro. And I think the biggest thing was that I took out of my time at Etobicoke was I felt so prepared when I stepped foot in a college atmosphere. And I felt like it prepared me so much, and I was so ready for all the things that college had for me.
All right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So when we think about the Dolphins, it's obviously, you've mentioned that it had a tremendous impact on you. That program, the way that it's structured, you had mentioned also that it really did. It feels as though it's really prepared you for your collegiate career. Could you talk about some of those specifics that about the program that really made you feel confident going into your collegiate career, and now obviously being as successful as you've been in at Boston U?
Yeah, absolutely. I think small things from on and off the ice, like how to conduct yourself as a professional, showing up to the rink, how to have mature conversations with coaches, as you grow up, kind of learning that you have to be able to advocate for yourself and communicate with different people in different situations. It was a really big part of my time at Etobicoke, is learning how to advocate yourself and being a young woman, how to have hard conversations between teammates, with coaches, just all things that you need to learn how to do as you grow up. And then on the ice, I just think all the small little details, like how to giving 100% of whatever you have that day, showing that at college, you practice 5 days a week. So a lot of the time where you need to develop and where you're proving yourself is in practice. So really those practice habits and all those fine little details, battling out every shot, all those small things, skating in hard to the coach, all the small stuff, but the things that count, and like all the little details of over there.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And so as we look, we continue through your career, and I mentioned off the top that you're at Boston U, you're wearing the Boston U hoodie there, which is great.
Yeah.
And could you talk a little bit And I think this is a really important question, especially now that, the PWHL is really taken off and women's hockey is really finally getting the spotlight that it deserves. I think we're going to start to see a lot of an even bigger influx in terms of women looking to pursue their collegiate career. Um, this hopefully is going to be a really important question to have, like, to kind of um, shine some light on how what the process looks like for you to select
Mhm.
your next step in your career. All that to say, what went into your decision to go to Boston? And especially as a Canadian, I always like to ask the question, um, what went into your decision to go pursue D1 or NCAA as opposed to staying in Canada with U Sports? What is, again, I always say, what is now U Sports hasn't always been that.
Yeah. Um, well, I got recruited when I was really young. I was in grade 9 when I committed. So I think that it's important fact to mention that I was still really, really little. So once the process was difficult at that time, like looking back at that, I'm not really quite sure how a grade 9 knew what they wanted. But I think the first step for me that was really important is I made a list of what was important to me, and number one was going somewhere with a really good education. I knew that, you know, I want to pursue, like, school is really important to me. Getting a good education is really important to me. So I knew I wanted to go somewhere where that mattered, and I was going somewhere that was going to set me up for a good future, whether that was in hockey or, wherever else that may be in the workforce. Like going somewhere that was going to set me up for my future. Two is going somewhere with a good hockey program, somewhere where I knew I was going to develop and, get better and set me up to keep going through, getting me through my career and making me better. So once again, BU clicks that box. A great hockey program and a really special one too. Like a lot of history here. It's pretty cool to say you play for BU. That's for sure. And then number 3, top 3 was just location and kind of that point of, deciding whether, you want to play in Canada or you want to play in the US. And to me, I wanted to play U1 right away. I knew that was the future for me, but I also knew that it was important to me that I was somewhere that was still, being so family orientated and knowing how important home is to me, being somewhere that is accessible and close to home. So Boston being an hour flight from Toronto, it kind of clicks that box too. And, being not that far of a drive, that was also truly important to me. And then once again, like, truthfully, when I stepped foot in Boston and went to BU's campus, I just fell in love with the city. Like, I still say that people ask me, like, about BU, I just say honestly, like, it's Boston. Like, if you haven't been to Boston, like, everyone needs to go to Boston. It's just such a cool city to go to school and BU. Like, we're in the city, you're around so much. We're so close to so many things. Like, you get to really, just embrace the city and embrace being here. It's super, super cool.
Yeah, it's difficult to ignore, especially with the PWHL and just how much the city has embraced women's hockey from across the board. I mean, collegiate hockey has obviously been a huge focus for a number of different places, and I think that now that we have a league like the PWHL, it's going to now only further. I use the analogy a bunch, but shine the light on the incredible women's programs that are all across, whether it's Canada or whether it's the US, but especially Boston. I mean, Boston U is not a bad place to go. So,
No.
could you maybe, in reflecting on you're going into your second season, but going,
Yeah.
reflecting on your first season, what were some of the biggest takeaways for you when it comes to both on the ice and off the ice in Boston?
Yeah, sure. I think on the ice, one of the biggest things was realizing how much goes into a season. It's a long season, and not only that, it's a lot of season of practices. We play twice a week. We practice 5 days a week. So learning how to really take care of your body, learning how to really take care of yourself, all those little things that I can kind of get away with when you're not practicing as much, you're not playing as much. You can't get away with. All those little things really count. So learning how to manage those and how to, basically just manage those little tiny things. I really found that was a big difference between, the end of my freshman year and going into my sophomore year. And something that I really try to work on this year is getting better at those tiny things that will help me succeed and help me just feel better throughout the week, which in turn will, make me better. I think off the ice, which also affects who I am on the ice, is just learning, like I mentioned earlier, just being a student athlete and first year away from home, first year at college, learning how to balance it all, how to really, be independent, be an individual, learning how to manage all different types of situations, manage them on your own. It really, I really think I grew a lot as a person after my 1 year or after my first year, and even as a goalie too, learning how to seeing what adjustments I need to make.
So, I have to ask, and then we'll move away from your collegiate career. But you've mentioned it a few times, and I keep forgetting to ask. What's it been like to make that adjustment? What's it been like to now like you're you have to figure things out on your own now? And what's that felt like for you to now have to balance being what it's, as opposed to before, where your junior career was very different than it is now? What's it been like for you to be able to balance being a student athlete? Because that's not easy, right? Like some of us, myself, I dropped out because I was like, I don't want to do this, and I only had to do school. I didn't have to be an athlete and maintain good grades and maintain, I go out and perform at my best every game. That's a really difficult balance, and you kind of you just have to learn to do it. What's it been like? What's that process been like for you? And do you have any advice for anyone who's maybe thinking, I want to do this, but I'm really feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think at first it's just trusting yourself. At the end of the day, I think a lot of the times I just need to tell myself I can do this and that I will get through it, no matter how, confusing or hard things may be. Honestly, it just gets really overwhelming at times. Sometimes you just have to take a breath and tell yourself, it's okay. It's all going to be okay. You just do things, check things off a list one step at a time. And I think the biggest thing that I learned was the kind of separating yourself from student to athlete and an individual. So, when you're at the rink, it's all about hockey. So, if I, received a bad test grade, or if I was super stressed, I have to do all this stuff when I get back from practice. Okay, right now, that doesn't matter. It's not going to change. So it doesn't help me to sit there and stress about it or dwell about it. So I got to put on my hockey hat and my athlete hat and go to work. And then once that's done, same thing, vice versa. I go to class. I'm a student right now. So I have to dial into class, I have to dial into my homework, and whether, let's say, I didn't have a good practice or whatever happened in the game, it doesn't matter right now. I can't fix it. I can't change it. So it's not going to be any good to sit here and dwell on it. So time for me to just be a student. And besides that, it's also really important to take some time where you're just an individual, you're just a person. You get to do stuff that is away from the rink, away from school, that you enjoy. It doesn't always have to be I think if you constantly just think student athlete, you get so overwhelmed with oh my God, hockey school. Or sometimes you just need to take time for yourself and do stuff away from both of those things that you enjoy for you. And that is something that I think really helped me avoid being burnt out or getting emotionally overwhelmed. Because I think learning from this year of school, past year, was not just getting physically tired, but getting emotionally tired too. And learning that to take care of myself. I need to do stuff that's gonna make me happy and make me just for me, that isn't hockey and that isn't school.
Well, the good news is that answer not only applies to athletes, but I think is something that applies to people just in general. Is just to basically be in that moment, not just push everything else to the side, focus on what you have to do, and just kind of do it in stages, right? So you said, put on that, the athlete hat, put on your goalie mask. I'm a goalie now. Once that's done, now is the time to talk about or think about being a student, right? And once that's done, now it's time for me to, you know what, maybe just hang out and, watch some soccer or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm watching Goalie ice cream with friends.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm going to ask you one more question before we get into the last segment of the show. Well, hopefully only one more question. Before we get into the last segment of the show, once again, Mari, thank you so much. I can't appreciate you taking the time out of your busy off season to join the show and to be able to share your story. And this has been fantastic. I've kind of mentioned it a couple of times at this point, but the PWHL,
Mhm.
up until last season, there wasn't really, like, when you thought about your hockey career, often it's either I'm going to just do, I'm going to go overseas, I'm going to play overseas because I love the game of hockey and that's my only other option, or I'm going to pursue my whatever it is that I studied in university or college.
Yeah.
Um, Knowing that the PWHL is there and the incredible reception that it's received, how does that make you feel about the future of, we can talk more broadly about women's hockey, but that might be too broad a question. But especially when it comes to your future in women's hockey, how does it feel, first of all, to see the incredible reception? Because you've played in front of fans, right? So that there's fans there. But to
Yeah.
see the reception that it had, what does that do for you personally, and what does that do for you when you think about what your future could be in women's hockey?
I think it's really exciting to think about that as a possibility. And yeah, it's really, really exciting to think about, when right now I want to be the best carrier I can be, but in 3 years from now, what my future is going to look like. I think getting the opportunity to play in the PWHL would be absolutely incredible. And yeah, we'll see what that looks like in 3 years and where I'm at. But it's pretty cool opportunity. I think that I have that opportunity that, like you said, a few years ago, it was kind of you go overseas or you kind of, look into pursuing what you pursued in college. But now having that opportunity to potentially even do both, like stay and play in a great league and get, the kind of that experience that you watch, like the boys getting growing up, like watching the NHL and being like, wow, getting to play pro hockey in front of so many fans. Now the women are getting to do that, which is super, super cool. And thinking that could one day potentially be me is even more exciting. And, it's super like exciting to see. And it's really amazing to see that growth from even when I was a kid, not really getting to watch that on TV, and now having like little girls be able to watch that and see that and watch their like favorite players every single day, and knowing that maybe one day that could be me.
Yeah, so I knew that I tried so hard to make that my last question, but I knew that I wouldn't. I knew I would not pass that test. Would you say that having the PWHL is maybe a little bit of an extra motivation for you? Not necessarily saying that that's, if you pursue that, great. We're definitely going to be cheering for you when you get your name called at the draft. But maybe that isn't what you want to do. But regardless, would you say that your collegiate career there might be a little bit extra motivation, knowing that that could still be an avenue for you moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely say it's motivating. I want to keep playing hockey for as long as I can. So it's really motivating to see that is a possibility. And it does give you a little extra drive to, know that there is a really big and bright future for women's hockey. And as a women's hockey player, wanting to be the best I could possibly be, that is a very big potential part of my future. So of course it motivates you to see it, watch it, and be like, seeing college girls go into the draft last year and be like, wow, like it comes more real. We were playing a league where girls are getting drafted. Like, wow, like that could be me. So I'm gonna work as hard as I possibly can at BU to make BU better and to be the best carrier and contribute to my team now, but also when my time here comes to an end, to know that that is something that I could also be a part of as well.
Right. And as we move into the last segment of the show, unfortunately, the show is now winding down. With the interest of time, I'm going to do my best once again to not ask any follow-up questions, but I cannot make any promises. What would you say? So this next segment, sorry, before I get into the questions, this next segment is a segment of the show that we here at the Crack Team at Rinkside Rundown have put together to really get to know you. And they're just going to be, it's like, I call it 20 questions, but not 20 questions. I'm still working. It's a working title. So it's 20 questions, but I'm not going to actually ask you 20 questions because then we'll be here until tomorrow with all my inevitable follow-up questions. But this is just a fun way to really get to know you. Just simple questions. Some of them are a little bit more profound than the others, but you'll be able to pick those out for sure. So without further ado, are you ready to take the test?
Yeah.
Okay,
let's
perfect.
do it again.
Yeah. It's always great being on this side of a test. I would not want to be on that side of the test, but you'll be great. This is going to be fine. What are you most proud of from this past season? Start off with the heavy questions.
The growth I made as a person and as a hockey player this year.
All right.
Learning a lot about myself.
All right, I like that. That's a good answer. Yeah. Okay, great. Starting off on a strong note. How would you for fans who haven't had the opportunity to either see you during your junior career or now after your first year of at Boston University, how would you describe your style of play as a goaltender?
In 3 words, I would say calm, athletic, and technical.
All right. Okay, good. Okay. Again, not going to ask any follow-up questions yet. I'm going to hold back my follow-up questions.
Yeah, I can see that.
What does, and we've talked about how like it's for athletes just in general, there's never really an off season, right? Like there's technically an off season, but the off season you're still doing stuff. And sometimes it can be a lot of stuff. What does the off season look like for Mari Pietersen, and how do you think it's changed, when we look at your junior career to now with your collegiate career?
Yeah. Well, I go back home in summer. I would say the best off season, the biggest off season I've had was this past year, which is kind of where I've mentioned the personal growth. But a lot of time in the gym, really working on, especially this summer, working on areas that I knew had to be better. The stuff that, no one really likes doing stuff they aren't good at, but really tuning into those areas, as well as really focusing on the nutrition and then mobility as well, injury prevention. And I started doing Pilates this summer, which was pretty cool. And I think, doing some cross sport stuff, and like I did a little tennis as well, but really doing those other things, I think really benefited me this year.
All right. No, that's fair. Again, I'm holding back all the follow-up questions I have. What would you say is your go-to pregame meal?
Pasta and chicken.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a follow-up question here.
Okay.
Is there, is there pasta sauce, pesto, Alfredo? Is there anything that you put on?
Red sauce. If I get to pick, pick red sauce. As a team, we usually have like catered pregame meals. So it's either pasta or it'll be rice and chicken, depending on like what the pasta is. Because I'm a little bit of a picky eater.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. So let's look back at your first season with Boston University. When you think back to that, in the dressing room, who owned the music that was happening, that was blasting in that room, and what do you remember was played most often?
We had 2 people. We usually had the Aux. It was either Sid Healy, who's a rising junior, or Julia Shaughnessy, who's a 5th-year student. There was a lot of rap, rock. I'm pretty easy, but it was good music. I liked it. So they're both back this year. So
okay, perfect. Do you remember any of the specific artists that were played, just so that we can maybe get some recommendations for the crowd?
Some Drake, quite a bit of Drake. Yeah. That's probably what I remember most.
That's fair. Okay, so when we think, speaking of music, if you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I always say this, you don't have to have it playing all the time. Like, it doesn't have to just be constantly on repeat. But if you're going to
Yeah.
listen, because that's a big caveat there,
Yeah.
it definitely changes an answer. But when you're playing a song, it has to be this song. Do you have one in mind?
Yeah, it would be a Revival by Zach Bryan.
Oh, good call. Good call. To be honest, typically I have no idea what the music is when people answer that question. This one I do. That's a great one. That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that song. I actually have a poster. If you can't see a poster in my room,
That's
I love
good.
that song.
That's good. I approve of that answer. What is something that still remains on your bucket list?
I want to travel a lot. I've been to some pretty cool places, but I want to keep traveling. I want to go to New York City. Never been to New York, so I want to go to England. Just keep traveling the world.
Okay, good. You saved me from having to ask a follow-up question as to specifically where you'd want to go. So I appreciate that, the assist on that one. Those are great places. I've been to New York exactly one time, and it was very early in the morning, had breakfast, and I was out. So I've only experienced it for about 2 hours, but it was great. So great
2
place.
hours.
Yeah. What's something that people may not know about Mari Pietersen?
I actually come from a pretty multicultural background. My mom is Greek and my dad's South African. So I think when I tell people that, they don't really expect it.
Ooh, okay, well, count me as one of those people.
Yeah.
I just have so many follow-up questions, but I won't ask them. I just have to have you back so I can ask all the follow-up questions.
Exactly.
What is something that motivates and inspires you? And you can take this whether it's both personally and professionally or one or the other, but what is something that motivates and inspires you?
I think just being the best person I can be and always aspiring to just get better and be a good person. I think that's kind of what I live by. On the ice, off the ice, just doing what's right, even when it's hard and even when it's not always easy. And not everyone else is doing it, but keep being a good person, and good things happen to those who work hard and deserve it. So you do good will come back to you.
Okay, well, that's a profound way to end this episode. So I
Yeah,
can't
there
think
you
of
go.
yeah, exactly. Words to live by just in life. So which has been something you've shared with us on a few different occasions today. So I can't thank you enough. And Mari, again, the fact that you took time out of your busy schedule, this has been an absolute blast. I love the opportunity to be able to connect with the rising stars of the game, and you are one of those individuals. So thank you so much for taking time today to hang out, tell your story, to provide us with some profoundly great advice, life advice, that we're going to be writing down and living by. So once again, thank you so much, Mari.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed myself and I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Good, my pleasure. And there you have it. For Mari Pietersen, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been Rinkside Rundown. Cheers.